Shawn Michaels may be the one christened Mr. WrestleMania, but The Undertaker is the most important and storied performer in the event's history. His legendary streak is a huge part of both his and the show's luster, and at his best, Taker was one of the strongest in-ring performers of all time. That being said, the Deadman has also delivered a lot of duds on the grandest stage of them all, particularly early in his career. So how do his 25 WrestleMania matches stack up? I'm Andy for WhatCulture Wrestling, and here is every Undertaker WrestleMania match ranked from worst to best. Number 25 versus Giant Gonzalez at WrestleMania 9. Not only is this the worst WrestleMania match on Undertaker's resume, but it might be the worst match of his career, period. A certified dud, it saw him wrestle an oversized, under-talented stiff wearing a flesh-coloured suit more befitting of a child on Halloween than a monster heel. The match is only acceptable from a so bad it's good standpoint. Number 24 versus the Big Boss Man at WrestleMania 15. Better known for a grisly post-match scene that saw The Undertaker and his weird gang of goths hang Bossman from Hell in a Cell than the action itself, this was a terminally dull bout that showcased the Attitude Era at its absolute worst. Number 23 versus King Kong Bundy at Mania 11. One of countless plodders in which Taker was paired with a useless lumbering behemoth, this was unquestionably a total waste of time. 22 versus Roman Reigns at Mania 33. Akin to watching a beloved family dog labour through his dying days, this one was just sad. Taker's performance was tragic, and Reigns could do nothing to drag a serviceable performance from a performer well past his sell-by date. Number 21 versus Jimmy Snuka at WrestleMania 7, and number 20 versus Jake Roberts at WrestleMania 8. Going from offensive to entirely inoffensive, Taker's first two Mania matches showed glimpses of the legendary worker he'd eventually become, but were too brief and too one-sided to live long in the memory. Number 19 versus Big Show and A-Train at WrestleMania 19. Absolute shit. Number 18 versus Shane McMahon at WrestleMania 32. Dragging on at least twice as long as it should have, Taker vs Shane saved WWE's tepid Mania 32 build, but once again painted McMahon in a preposterous light, with the overhyped executive matching the fearsome Deadman for long periods, and that's why it sucked. Number 17 versus Brock Lesnar at Mania 30. Beating the streak was a divisive decision, but it ultimately proved justified, as the Beast became a star above everyone else in WWE shortly afterwards, taking Taker's mantle as an unbeatable phenom in the process. The match itself wasn't good though. Hampered by an early concussion to The Undertaker, it was dull and depressing, with the Deadman enduring Lesnar's brutal but slow offense with glassy eyes. Two records died that night: the streak and Taker's run of Mercurial Mania classics. He just hasn't delivered a big stage performance since. Number 16 and number 15 versus Kane at WrestleManias 14 and 20. Their fates will always be linked, but while Taker vs Kane should have been a legendary rivalry, they never delivered in the ring. Both of their Mania matches were laborious. They weren't bad necessarily, but they didn't click to the expected level, with WrestleMania 14 only marginally better than 20. Number 14 versus Sid at WrestleMania 13. Do you like rest holds? Then boy, this is the match for you. That being said, this much maligned stallfest was a tad more entertaining than it's typically remembered, particularly when Sid and Taker were battering the absolute piss out of each other ringside. Still, there was far too much inactivity to say it was legitimately good, and let's be honest, Sid was always bollocks. Number 13 versus Mark Henry at Mania 22. He eventually developed into a fine horsey brawler, but Henry was still 5 years away from opening the Hall of Pain in 2006 and delivered a plodding performance. Taker, to his credit, lit the crowd up with a corner last ride and a big suicide dive, but two fun spots couldn't save this slog of a casket match. Number 12 versus Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 31. Once considered Taker's natural successor, Wyatt locked horns with the Deadman 1 year after his streak-breaking loss to Brock Lesnar, but showed little to suggest he could succeed him as WWE's new face of fear. The match was fine, just disappointingly ordinary, owing primarily to its short runtime. Number 11 versus Diesel at Mania 12. Two big lads big-ladding the bejesus out of each other for 16 minutes. This could have gone the same way as Taker's bouts with Bundy and Sid, but it was elevated by the Deadman's outstanding selling, which did wonders for the limited Diesel. Number 10 versus Triple H at WrestleMania X7. A fun stadium-wide brawl on what is widely acknowledged as WWE's greatest ever pay-per-view, this wasn't quite on the same level as the bouts that Triple H and Taker would deliver against each other years later. Still, if you can stomach the unprotected chair shots, this heated scrap is well worth revisiting. Number 9 versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 21. Widely acknowledged as the point at which the streak became an actual thing, Mania 21 presented a great dynamic: legend versus legend killer. It was a marketer's dream, and while it started with a botched old school, it eventually developed into something very suspenseful, with Orton's innovative counters brewing fears of a massive upset. Number 8 versus Ric Flair at Mania 18. No longer capable of delivering the lengthy technical classics of old, Ric Flair took plenty of shortcuts at Mania 18, but it worked. A master psychologist, he demonstrated great fire throughout, with his jelly-legged selling as important to the match's quality as Undertaker's credibility as a destroyer, and the crowd were absolutely hooked throughout. Number 7 versus Triple H at WrestleMania 27. The problem with the last two Taker versus Triple H matches is that while both were undeniably excellent, they weren't quite on the same level as the Shawn Michaels bouts. Still, they're fantastic matches in their own right. This, the first, was a daring portrayal of The Undertaker. He wasn't so much sympathetic as he was pitiful, and with Triple H becoming increasingly conflicted the longer his steel chair assault went on, it made for an awesome and unique dynamic. Number 6 versus Batista at WrestleMania 23. Taker and Big Dave always had awesome chemistry, and while the Animal wasn't an all-time great worker, his matches with the Deadman were usually pretty tremendous. Devoid of reversals, finisher kickouts, and other WWE-styled tropes, this one played out more like a heavyweight boxing match than a WrestleMania bout. It was stronger for it too, and stands as something uniquely brutish in Taker's back catalogue. Number 5 versus Edge at Mania 24. While most of Edge's strongest performances came in wild gimmick matches, this is an exception to the rule. The Rated R superstar was awesome here. His ultimate opportunist character manifested through a series of sublime counters, and while it was tough to see him as a serious threat before the match, this soon changed as soon as the bell rang. Taker, after months of being outsmarted by Edge, put his opponent away with the Hell's Gate submission. Edge tapped out, but gained boatloads in defeat. Number 4 versus Triple H at WrestleMania 28. In terms of pure in-ring storytelling, this is one of the best bouts of Undertaker's career, easily. The callbacks to their previous matches were excellent. Like last time, Triple H battered Taker with chair shots, but the roles were reversed this time. In the end, Undertaker was the aggressor, and had Triple H practically begging for mercy by the final bell, subverting the previous year's dynamic. A brilliant self-referential pseudo-handicap with Shawn Michaels as referee, this Hell in a Cell throwdown is rife with big theatre drama. Number 3 versus CM Punk at WrestleMania 29. A sleeper pick for the number 1 spot, Taker's match with Punk was the last truly great WrestleMania bout of his career, and while it came from a feud that was often ugly and disrespectful, its quality is impossible to deny. It obviously helped that Punk was close to untouchable at the time, but both men were majestic. Anchored with timeless psychology, it was the perfect meeting of old school and new, and a superb distillation of pro wrestling as an art form. Number 2 versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 26. As HBK and Taker stared each other down at the opening bell, Shawn mimicked his opponent's throat-slit gesture. In order to save his career, he had to channel the loathsome brat of old, and it telegraphed a sublime composite performance. The somewhat predictable outcome renders this classic one notch below its prequel, but who cares? Michaels was wonderfully obnoxious, Taker's selling was masterful, and that jumping tombstone was spectacular. Really, this should have been a 5-star match. The modern era's most high-stakes matchup, the greatest retirement bout of all time. This match is a lot of things. but it's not The Undertaker's best WrestleMania clash. And at number 1 versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25. It may not have been the main event, but Taker vs Shawn 2 is the kind of seminal masterpiece the word epic was made for, with its near impossible festival of one-upsmanship generating unparalleled drama. This match has everything. You get the typical WWE-style big move kickouts, but the psychology was exquisite too, with Michaels' desperation evident in every little movement. This made it perfectly suited to the biggest wrestling show of the year and a top 5 WWE match of all time. Not even a major botch could spoil the magic that Shawn and Taker summoned that night. In fact, the terrifying dive kicked off a captivating final third act, with the big move shootout creating some unbelievable near falls before Taker inevitably put his foe away.
So that was our video. Thank you for watching. Please do feel free to click on anything happening around my head, or something terrible might happen to this dog. Is that you too sweeting me, bro? Ugh. Disgusting. That's really bad.